appraisers, we tend to be isolated, and
Exactly.
working together to work smarter and come up with, I've learned this about myself. I learn a lot better by communicating. So if you're sitting around and you're not talking to anybody, you really can't get the ideas out.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
And welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair. Almost 1 million downloads, folks. The #1 listened to appraisal podcast out there. Thank you for joining me. Have a very special show. It's one of the most popular shows that we do. It's another appraiser story for you. I want to pause here first and remind you that we are sponsored by 3 great companies, one of them being Working RE Magazine. Working RE is where I go on a pretty regular basis, a couple times a week, to find out what's going on in the appraisal world. You should be as well. Again, it's workingre.com, workingre.com. Datamasterusa.com is where you go to find out more about a great program, which will save you time, save you money, save you about 45 minutes per report, folks. It's Datamaster, and you can find them at datamasterusa.com. And finally, we're sponsored by Alamo. Speaking of efficiencies and technology that can be used for your benefit, folks, if you're not using their mobile app, what are you doing? Alamo.com or 800 Alamo. Well, folks, I want to introduce to the program a friend of mine, a member of the All-Star team. Her name is Dana Schau. She comes to us from the Dakotas. North or south, Dana?
I'm in North Dakota. Williston,
there is
North
a difference.
Dakota.
There is a difference,
Yes.
right?
Well, I don't know. I think we have the same feel.
Okay, all right. So talk to me a little bit about your background, because it's kind of unique what put you in North Dakota.
Okay. I was born and raised in West Michigan, southwestern Michigan, and went to school to be a teacher, and I taught just for a few years. But while I was studying to be a teacher, I worked part-time for an appraiser, and I thought to myself when I was in the summer, like, wow, I think I'd be really good at this. This is really neat stuff. I like the order. I like the things like that. So I put the blinders back on and became a teacher. Worked for about 6 years as a teacher, and then I decided to quit. I felt I didn't have the energy to be the mom I wanted to be, so I quit. And I was looking into other ways to just work part-time. Some of those, I hate to say it, but back in the mid-90s, there were some, maybe they're still out there, some scams on trying to get you to sell gumball machines and stuff like that. So
Right.
I'm sitting at some gumball machine thinking, and I actually think I gave him my money. I got it back. I did get it back though.
Good.
I sat next to a girl and she said, oh, well, I'm studying to be a real estate appraiser. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm flat out going to tell you, I do not think I would have thought of it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I was really good at that.
Yeah.
And so I called my mentor, who was my mentor at the time, and said that night, and no lie, he just said, Dana, I will hire you tomorrow and you can buy my business. And it was like, boom, like that, I had a job.
Wow.
So,
and it wasn't gumballs.
Yeah, no gumballs. I got my $3,000 back.
I love it.
So I went to school, and that was in September of '96, and was going to Holloway Institute there in Michigan, and
Okay.
Got my license and started working for him. And then I was going to get a few more classes and found out I was pregnant with twins.
Oh, wow.
And that put our business on hold for a while, which actually was pretty cool for me, because I ended up not having to buy his business, because an appraiser thinks his business is worth a little bit too much, if you ask me, for what somebody ended up paying him. I thank the Lord I did not have to do that. And I felt obligated to, because that was a contract, right? I mean, it wasn't really a contract, but he ended up hiring somebody. Yeah, he hired somebody else once he saw how easy I was to train. And I do see that. It's true. He flat out told me, he goes, I've never wanted to hire anybody. And I had an assistant in the office for 7 years, and I never would have hired her to train her, because the way you picked it up, and,
Wow.
I don't want to, I hate to say it like that, but I just grooved in it. I just grooved right in it. I knew I'm a data hound. It just hit. And like I said, he had hired people and had other people. And imagine walking in, some green elementary school teacher saying, hi, I'm here to be an appraiser. And you worked for 7 years and he didn't hire you. I won't get into that. I watch my back once in a while.
Yeah, I hear you. And but now you're in North Dakota.
Yeah. So we were struggling out here in 2008 in Michigan. We struggled quite a bit starting around 2006. We were barely making it, but we hung on. And a friend of mine introduced us to it in 12 about North Dakota. He was building out here in Stanley, which is about an hour and a half from me. And this is the oil area, do the fracking, do the oil fracking. Yeah. So he said it took 6 months to get an appraisal done, and I laughed. And it took me about 6 months to do it, because I just said, no, I had 13-year-old twins at the time, or 14-year-old twins. So I didn't think I could do it. But he just kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And I said, all right, I'll fly out there. And I talked to a few banks, and I only found one bank that would hire me. But I got 7 orders, and I flew out there in November 2012 and stayed out here in rural North Dakota for about 8-9 days. And I think I flew in November 17th, 2012, and flew back, 24th, whatever it was. And we had a couple lean months, but we kept it up. We saw the opportunity. My husband and I started like driving out here because we couldn't afford the flight for a while there because it was, trying to get the business up and running. And
Sure.
But before you know it, we were getting 30, 40 orders a month or every 6 weeks for, we do 30 to 40 orders every 4 to 5 weeks and be out here for 4 or 5 days, as much as 8. Then I'd fly home and he'd drive. We flew back and forth. I flew, just depending on where the appraisal was too. Like sometimes I flew into Minot, sometimes I'd fly into Fargo, saying some towns you might not know, but farther east of where I am right now, just to make it work,
Right. And but you eventually moved out there.
We were staying out here in a friend's. I met a North Dakota nice couple who actually were from Michigan. They let us live in their ensuite part-time we did that for about 7-8 months where we were living here probably 30-40% of the time. And I told Charlie, I said, I really think I could do this. I really think I could live here. And then we moved out here to give our sons the opportunity. And I'll be honest, my sons have done very, very well, particularly the one that's been here since he got out here in February 2019. He has, I think about all his buddies who are stuck home because of COVID, and he's out here working full time and skyrocketing up in the bank and just doing real well. So it's been good for my whole family.
Good. So tell me a little bit about, obviously you've got the mining industry. Tell me a little bit about your primary area. What makes North Dakota so unique? You've worked 2 different geographic areas, which is very unique for an appraiser. So you have the comparison there. What's it like to appraise out there?
Well, when I started, I started in the small little towns and got to know each of the individual towns. And the reason what makes North Dakota unique is the fracking. It's the oil. I think there's always been a shortage of appraisers from what I can see. I guess I never thought about that in Michigan. I guess I felt like there were shortages in 03. We were really crazy busy, but nothing like it is out here. It literally was. The first appraisal I did, I met the guy and he was from Bismarck, and he said to me, this was November, like I told you, 2012. He goes, will this appraisal be done by spring? And I'm like, spring? I said, I'm going to give you a Christmas present.
Oh my God.
He almost hugged me. I'm like, okay, don't hug me. It's I don't know you were out in the middle of nowhere in Plaza, North Dakota, but I'm glad you're happy.
Yeah. So,
it's just people from everywhere. I do like that. I'm living in an apartment. We sold our house in Michigan just this last month. And when we were coming out here in 12, 13, and 14, you'd go to the Walmart parking lot, and you probably heard the stories, people living in there. We got some funny stories about that, but people from everywhere are living here. I really like that. We all kind of have a longing for home. So I like that we're all kind of in this together. It feels like the Wild West a little bit. You know what I mean? Is like the kids that are around me and the parents in church. Everybody's just, we're making new families out here. So that's what's kind of unique. But again, it's just the shortage. It's a town of 17. Well, I'm not going to, don't quote me exactly, but let's say there was 10,000 people in Williston 10 years ago. There's 30 now. There's 30,000.
Oh, yeah.
First international airport in 50 years to actually have a new location. They literally could not build, and the airport is now being dismantled and being turned. It's going to be a nice little park. And it's different. Rural America is very different than, I lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I had 1 million people living within 50 miles of me. I probably don't even have 1 million people living within 500 miles of me.
Right.
And again, don't quote me, but it's a total different feel.
Yeah.
For me to drive 2 hours to go to the Walmart and 2 hours to go to a mall.
You and I were talking off the air, and you and I have a similarity in the sense that we both do rural areas, but you even drive more than I do. What's a typical day look like for you, Dana?
Well, that's one thing I will say. We'll talk about that. Is I feel like I'm working a lot smarter. And it's a couple reasons. I mean, I'll say joining your team has really helped me. It's made me more aware. I feel like I'm being sharpened. Iron sharpens iron, and you need that, especially when you're in this rural area. I'm the only appraiser that I work with every day. So I love the Facebook and all that. How I get the input. So I feel like I'm working smarter. And what we've decided is I stay in Williston every Monday. I do about 4 to 5, maybe 6 appraisals a day every Monday in Williston. Okay. Maybe as many as 7. And then, so that day is a long, long day. And then I usually spend Tuesday, Wednesday, getting those around and working with my virtual assistant now that I have. And then I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and sometimes depending on the day, Thursday or Friday, I'll go back out and I'll either go north. So I'll head north and I go as far as Crosby, which I can see Canada from Crosby. I can see Saskatchewan. Yeah. And then I'll go farther east. So I kind of swoop up through the east, north and east once a month. Okay. And then I'll swing south and east once a month. And then occasionally so I try to do every other, so first Thursday of the month, I'm going to go north, and we're still working on that. And then the third Thursday, I'm going to go south. And I'm trying to only go those directions once a month. But occasionally, because of trips home or because of like, we have a church camp in Devil's Lake, which is about 4.5 hours from here, I will head, whenever I'm heading that direction, I'm going to do appraisals. So on my way back from Michigan this last month, I was in Hansborough, North Dakota, which literally is about 8 hours from here, maybe a little bit more round trip, but maybe 5-6 hours at the most. But I never go that far just to go that far.
Right.
It's always, it's popping around the country. And I won't go back to Hansborough until November when I head home for Thanksgiving. So that's how we do it. We've told them they're trying to get me to go that far again. And I'm like, I don't know if you can find anybody, but it won't be me until November.
Yeah.
The farthest I'll go is usually Minot, and took about 2.5, probably 3 hour drive. But again, I'm not going just for one appraisal 3 hours. I'm probably going to have 5 or 6 on the way. Maybe as many as 10 on a day like that, which is hard to do in November. You can't do that in November.
No, I hear you. Yeah. A lot of miles though.
So I was putting more miles on my cars. I honestly think I was in Michigan.
Yeah.
Because I would go, 20 miles north to Rockford, then 30 miles east. And I could never plan my day. You'd be like, oh, bummer, man, I just got a appraisal in Rockford. I went to Rockford last week. I'm going to Rockford again this week.
Got to go back.
Yeah. And now I don't have to do that. I mean, I pretty much can set my own parameters. And occasionally they'll pay you a crazy amount of money. And I'll just say it, to go far, and I'm going to charge, you're going to pay me at least $50-$60 an hour, probably $100 an hour if I'm going to drive that far. I might not charge that because I can use that time, but they got to make it worth my while, or I'm not getting in my car to drive that far.
Yeah, good. That's working smart. All right. So the most scary or disturbing experience you've had as an appraiser, you've been doing this a while. So you had
1996. I think the most dangerous was my husband and I were down in Watford City, North Dakota, and it was 27 degrees below zero. This was our first winter out there. I did have gloves, but we didn't have a shovel, and he was so cute. We're in a rental car, and I was trying to connect to their Wi-Fi because they had an open Wi-Fi, and I was trying to, in that area, I couldn't get a good signal. And even though I have Verizon, some places it doesn't work. And so he's creeping up to the house. I'm thinking, I think you're getting too close to that snowbank. But I didn't dare go outside because it was 27 degrees below zero. Well, guess what? We got stuck in a driveway in 27 degrees below zero with nothing but a couple pair of gloves on our hands. And I didn't break into the pole barn because I wouldn't want to say that, but I found a 2x4, and I was so mad at Charlie. I'm under there with this 2x4 because he got us stuck worse. And I'm under there trying to pitch out that snow with a 2x4. We couldn't find a shovel. And needless to say, it wasn't scary because we couldn't have died, but it was pretty bad. And then And then I did actually I was in a house in Allegan, Michigan. This was back in like 97, 98 when I was just into it. And I heard something in the garbage. It was an abandoned house. And I heard something in the garbage. And I told myself, okay, there's something alive in this house. I tried to pray, trust myself. What could it be? Because I'd already seen a mouse, because I was scared. I said, there's a mouse in the house. I hear it. And then he ran across in front of me. So I already was scared. And then I hear this thing rumble around in the garbage, and I have to get outside, and the garbage is right by the door. And the rest of the house is boarded up, I'm like, okay, God, what could this be? This is either a raccoon or a rat. Well, guess what? It was a rat. And it was a big rat. And I was so scared, I left my clipboard and keys on the counter.
I love it.
So what I did is I banged on the door really loud, and I thought, why didn't I do that? Because he was scared. He was more scared of me than I was him.
Sure.
And he did not move, and I got out of there lickety split. So those are my two scariest. So
that is great. All right, those are scary, but those are funny. I hope you've saved a funny story for us.
I have a really funny one. Really, I mean, it's funny because when you hear rural road means a lot different to me now than what rural road meant to me in Michigan.
Okay.
And she said this was on a prairie road, and I'm out in Logan, North Dakota, which is not far from Minot, which is a pretty big town. And I'm on this road, and it's February, and I screwed up. But I'll blame Google. Google told me to go that way, and so I start down this prairie road, but it wasn't a prairie road. It was the farmer's road between their fields, but I didn't know that.
Sure.
So there's probably a foot of snow on the ground, and I'm at a nice little edge. I rented an edge, and I'm plowing through the snow, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I said, if I can just get to the house, then I'll be able to plow back out, because I knew I couldn't stop. So I kept going, and I'm like, I'm so mad at this realtor. Where is she sending me? I am out there in the middle of nowhere, and it's 27 degrees below zero. It wasn't that cold. It was probably 17 below. And I'm just plowing through, just absolutely plowing through. And I said to myself, the house is not up here. We are not on the right road. So I stopped, and I'm like, and I tried to back out.
Yeah, that was your mistake. You stopped.
Yeah. But no, I don't, wait, I'm like, that's not true. Because if I want to, I'll tell you what happened. So I call it AAA. He comes out to me and he goes, I can't get you out without a Bobcat. I got to make a road.
Oh my gosh.
He had to make a road. And he told me if I had gone another 100 yards, he would have had to get a helicopter to get me out.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's what he told me. So So AAA did not pay for that. It was $600 to tow me out. I'm such a diva because I had Charlie, my husband, come get me, and he had to stay out there and wait. I said, "Oh, we should have videotaped this.
Oh yeah.
This would have been. I could have had a podcast.
You could have gone viral.
I've got some really good podcast stories too from different things happening, but I may end up doing that someday. But so I'm at the hotel. Charlie's out there. They charge us $600, but because it was so late, we couldn't leave. We were going to head to Michigan, so we stayed. And no lie, I got $2,000 from appraisals, literally that were within like 20 minutes of where I was, and then 20 minutes farther. So I made $1,400.
Love it.
Because back then we weren't making as much money, so that was a really good shot in the arm.
It was a
blessing.
blessing.
I have a funny story. I told my sons, I said, a helicopter was almost going to have to get me out of it.
That is awesome. We're talking with Dana Schau out of North Dakota. Thank you, Dana. We'll come back here in just a little bit, but I want to pause here and remind you that we're sponsored by 3 great companies. Alamode being one of them, folks. I'll tell you, their mobile platform is amazing. We are using it daily to go out and sketch and to get photos and comp photos and fill out the form. And by the time I get back to the office, I'm able to sit down and start doing adjustments, folks. That's how good it is. Check them out. Go to alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone and talk to them. If you're with any other company out there, I dare you to call Alamode. It's 800 Alamode, and ask them how they are different than the company that you're with. They will tell you, and you will be switching. Alamode.com or 800 Alamode. Working RE Magazine, of course, is the place that I go to learn more about the appraisal world. In fact, a lot of the topics for this particular podcast come from Working RE Magazine because they are right on the edge of what's going on in our industry. Check them out. Go to workingre.com and sign up for their free newsletter. It's workingre.com. Finally, we're sponsored by Datamaster. Datamaster, of course, is the place that I go to save about 45 minutes on every stinking report that I do. Check them out right now. Go to datamasterusa.com. And folks, they're not in every area. I don't know if they're in North Dakota, but I'm using 5 MLSs, and they are in 2 of the 5. So 3 of them, unfortunately, I can't use them. But if they are in your area, you need to be using them. Datamaster USA is where you find out more. Again, it's datamasterusa.com. And welcome back to the program, folks. We are with Dana Schau. She's in North Dakota, a member of my all-star team and an appraiser extraordinaire. Can appraise anything in 17 degree below zero weather, right?
55. It was 55 last winter.
Jeez. Oh, I can't even fathom.
You're going to die. I'd rather die with sunshine. You're going to die in Michigan if it's 10 below and it's cloudy. I'd rather be where it's sunny and die in 5 minutes sooner and have sunshine.
All right. So you've been doing this actually as long as I have. I started in 96 as well. Dana, what would you point to as your biggest failure over the years of doing this?
Well, I say first thing I was thinking is that I was introduced to the Bakken back in March of 2012, and he kind of just said, why don't you try it? And I didn't. And it took him pushing me in to start a company with him to do it. And I lost quite a bit of money, and I lost quite a bit of control at the beginning. So I would say that the fear of not starting it, but then I would say even more so for me is I've worked hard at this job my whole career, and I want to work smarter. So I don't know if it's a failure, but I feel like where I would have been if I'd have done this, working with you, being sharpened. And, I'm not saying you're the catch-all. There's a lot of other ways, but this makes so much sense to be working together. Appraisers, we tend to be isolated, and working together to work smarter and come up with, I've learned this about myself. I learn a lot better by communicating. So if you're sitting around and you're not talking to anybody, you really can't get the ideas out, and some people learn better by reading. I tend to just do better talking. And so I already had some staff, but I really feel like your, just the input I'm getting for the team from the Facebook page has really helped me. So I'm making that failure, go away as soon as possible. So I am working smarter. I am working a lot smarter.
In fact, the next question I was going to ask you is your biggest success, but it sounds like you've turned that failure into success.
Yeah. Well, I would say my first is my family. I really believe that's my most important calling is my kids all are walking with the Lord. That's the most important thing to me in my life. But then I would say that coming out here, it's going to change. It's changing the entire trajectory of my entire family. I said my son, even if he doesn't stay, just coming out here, the fact that he got in his Kia, 21-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, and just got in his Kia. And he's got some funny stories too, getting stuck down in Dickinson in a Kia in 27 degrees below zero on a Saturday night, trying to do Uber. So I said, you've got some stories. You and I, we almost could, we should come up with something. A mom and son in the Bakken. I don't know what we can call it, but he's got some really funny stories from doing Lyft and Uber out here too. I'm
surprised there's an Uber out there, frankly.
Diary of a boomtown Lyft driver and Diary of a boomtown appraiser. I said we should come up with it, man.
I love it.
The Lyft driver might even be better.
Where do you see things going here in the next 3 to 5 years, both personally for you and for the profession?
Well, I feel like there's been a lot more hybrid stuff out there in the last, and I don't know if that's the right word, but I really feel like we're getting away from maybe doing a lot of, like, I'm being asked to do some appraisals right now because of COVID. They say they won't even let me in the house. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. But they said, if you won't do it, then we're not going to get the appraisal done. So I think there's going to be a lot more hybrid. I think that's going to allow us to focus on what we need to focus on, which is the data analysis and trusting other people. And there's certain appraisals I'm not going to do a desktop.
Good.
But I really think that hybrid is going to free us up to get more work done and be more efficient. And then
data's available, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we were talking about that a little bit. I have one that I'm working on it right now, trying to make that decision. And of course, I state that to them. In some areas I work, you don't even have addresses. You don't even know the address of the house. You actually have to count the houses to figure out what the address is.
I have a few of those.
Oh, and then I also think that depending on what happens with my kids, I've lived in both states at the same time, and I like my life out here better. But if my kids are back in Michigan, I'll probably go back the other way. But I'll have a little house here. I'll have something.
Yeah.
I'll never leave this area for as far as appraising. For one thing, I feel like I'm needed so much more.
Right.
But I may be back in Michigan, at least part-time. And I like the idea of that.
It's a good feeling to be needed.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So one helpful tip that you can give to the listeners, to the appraisers out there.
Well, I think one thing in working with you, and I've always had it, never called it workflow, but I think my workflow, in the procedures manual is really, really, really helping. And honestly, I think I was planning on getting rid of ANOW and trying to do my own, like Google Sheets and Google Forms, but we decided that the workflow is just too well, it integrates really well with ANOW.
Yeah.
And I've actually even come up with a way to link ANOW workflow to my procedures manual.
Nice. I love it.
So it's just a hyperlink, and it's not as easy as I want it to be. I've asked them to see if they could get it so it could be a hyperlink rather than copying and pasting. But if my girls don't know how to do it, they can find it in the procedures manual, or we're going to copy and paste a link into that workflow, and then it will take them right to the procedures manual, so they won't have to look for it.
Right.
So I really think that in the software, I really like Alamode. I think Alamode's done a good job. I've really wanted Titan up. I was excited about Titan. But now that I'm using my server, thank you. That's going to change a lot. So
one of the things we talked about in the All-Star team, right?
Oh yeah, the server. I remember talking to you back in 2017 about how I was struggling with data and transferring data and working with. I was using virtual assistants before I knew that's what they were called. So.
Right on. Well, wonderful. Are you ready for the lightning round, my friend?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Inside out or outside in?
Inside out.
Okay. Tape, roller, or laser?
I use all three, depending on the house.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's an interesting answer. Tablet, computer, clipboard, and pen?
I'm still a clipboard and pen girl. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. We'll get you there.
I'm trying, but I don't get it. I don't get how it's faster.
We already know your appraisal software, so your favorite thing to do when you're not appraising?
Is being with family and friend. We have a cottage in Michigan and church functions. My church is very important to me.
Yeah, I can tell. And one goal that you have for this year?
One goal, to get my VAs up and running. I've got a couple that I'm working with in the Philippines, and just get the server and get that all going. And my procedures manual will be done. Probably the most important thing.
I love it. I love it. Oh, wonderful. What didn't we talk about, Dana, that you want to share as we close up here?
I don't think so. I mean, I've looked at everything. I think we kind of went over everything. I love my profession.
I can tell.
I can say that I love it because of the flexibility it gave me as a mother. That was probably the most important thing to me. I love it that I'm needed. I said I feel like that. I feel like out here I'm really needed. But I have to say I'm really glad to have joined this team. I could have found maybe there's other options, but I really think this is really helping me. I really do. I'm just glad to be. I feel like I'm being sharpened, and I'm going to be a better appraiser person and everything because of it. Because if I can work smarter, that allows me to have the time to do the other things, the other missions in my life. So.
Love it, my friend. Thank you for taking time. I really appreciate you telling your story. Very unique there in North Dakota. Dana Schau, thanks again.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I think I'm putting less miles on my car now than I was when I was working in Michigan. Because I would go 20 miles north for one appraisal, and then I couldn't hear what you said.
Was that Siri?
Siri's answering me.
That's funny. You got to be careful what you say these days. That's funny.
So I was putting more miles on my cars. I honestly think I was in Michigan.